you, Susan, and thank you, everyone. Just acknowledging Jack Mabuta, who is a PhD student at the University of New England, whom we work together for this paper. Quality of instruction can contribute to positive student retention rates. Student attrition is defined as departure from a program without successful completion, which is the opposite of student retention, in which students eventually obtain a degree at the end. There are two types of attrition. There is positive attrition, in which a student might do some sort of courses, probably bridging courses, to be able to get into probably a 4-year degree eventually, and so they're not actually dropping out, but they're doing something to get into another program. But negative attrition is the one where students actually depart from a program and don't actually graduate. And retention rates are a critical aspect of institutional success, and retention and graduation rates are often used to indicate university success because public institutions such as the USP and most universities are accountable to stakeholders for the retention and completion rates of these students. And so attrition rates in this case is a concern for me and my colleague, because not only does it cost the university lost income, it costs parents and also sponsors lost income also, but also loss incurred through human potential, because students terminate their participation at university somewhere along the line. And it's also the major focus of our study, also because we found out that there is consistently a high attrition of students at USP Fiji, usually not less than 50 students per semester, and usually goes to more than 100 per semester. It varies from semester, but it goes from more than 50 to over 100 each semester. And for all of the Solomon Island students who are sent overseas to be studying at various universities, there is 88% of those are usually from USP Fiji. So that is a concern, and the reason why we interviewed 17 Solomon Island students to get their opinions. And we clustered their opinions into three broad categories that Polinsky 2003 clustered them in negative attrition, clusters of negative attrition, whether it's student characteristics like first year or poor academic preparation, or life circumstances such as financial and family obligations, or the university experience such as unsatisfactory instruction. And that's what I'll be touching on today, the issue of unsatisfactory instruction. And the things I'll say afterwards will be things that the students that we interviewed gave. And they would be concerns and problematic, but obviously there are people and staff and lecturers who do well in teaching, and the things that I'll be coming up with, that I'll be speaking about, are things that our interviews said. The findings. One of the things that said in tutorials to begin with, various tutors do not know their content sufficiently. That's one of the students' concerns. Many increasingly young tutors run poor tutorials and tutorial environments. So it's not only young tutors, but there is also mention of tutorials and tutorial environments as a whole, that certain staff and tutors who take tutorials are not taking tutorials properly. And a couple of those interviewed and many students that come to the USP would be very experienced and mature students, and can tell that tutorials are poorly run. In terms of lecturing, there is mention of poor lecturing by various staff. There is concern about understanding certain staff accents. There is certain heavy accents that students find difficulty understanding, and one of them said that it's absolutely no need to go to the lecture because you don't understand a single word that person was saying. There are lecturers who teach to fail and not for learning. So there is mention of staff, when it's difficult for students, they go, oh, that's the one, it's difficult for students, then that's I'm doing well, because it's, instead of simplifying and conveying concept properly, when it's harder for students, that's it. Instead of, so there's lots of things that I'm not aware of that students are saying, or certain staff do not bother or may not know how to cater for slow learners, and some just don't have good rapport with students. And in terms of marking and assessment, there is, and this one concerns me quite a bit, because a good number of those students whom I interviewed feel that there is favoritism in allocation of marks and grades by certain staff at the university. That's a bit of a concern for me, because I think it's a serious issue if students feel that there is favoritism, because we're supposed to be neutral when we treat students, and if there is favoritism, I feel that's a pretty serious thing, that a number of things, and one of them is just glaringly obvious. That's one of, he said it in pidgin, but it's glaringly obvious. So that there's probably favoritism going in class. And some marking are poor. So for example, one said that there's all ticks from the name to the reference to, they put a tick over there, 6 out of 10. There is no corrective feedback given that tells where the 4 marks went wrong. There's only ticks from the top right down to the end, 6 out of 10. There is no corrective feedback given, so how would students know that they're doing properly? And again, students know if we are putting in time to mark properly, because there are staff who mark them properly and write comments there and there, they mark, they go down properly, they look at the assignments properly, and there will be those who do the example that the student gave, for example. So, and the other one is there is often a mismatch between what comes in lectures and tutorials and what comes in tests and examinations. So there is different things that comes in tests and lectures, and tutorials, and something absolutely different tests when it comes in examinations. Because usually we test and exams things that we go through in class. So there needs to be curriculum alignment from what we intend to achieve in the course, what's in your contents, and the activities that they do there, and the assessment that gears towards getting students to achieve those outcomes that we intended at the beginning. So we don't put into examinations things that we think of when we woke up in the wrong side of the bed in the morning and then put it up there. It's usually things that's already taught in the class. Therefore, so as a conclusion, it needs to be realized that instructors are pivotal to the retention of students. What happens in the classroom is critical to student retention, because often probably instructors and facilitators, we think that we might not have anything to do with student retention or anything to do with student attrition, but we do. And we need to know the important role that we play in retentions. Thank you very much.